Today we're going to discuss what the best running drill is for athletes. We'll cover everything from what it is, why you should use it, and how you can implement it today in your training program. What's up YouTube? Cody Bidlow with SprintingWorkouts.com coming at you with another video. One of the challenges with setting up and implementing a high quality sprint training program is being efficient with how you select exercises. We're all limited on time and energy, so we have to do some amount of critical thinking in order to decide what fits within the program given the needs of the athlete. Running drills are one of those things that get a lot of hype and interest, especially from those who are relatively new to the training and performance world. At first glance, the idea that there are specific exercises, such as drills, which can develop certain capabilities, such as speed, sounds great. But in today's culture of hot takes and spicy memes, quick and easy solutions tend to get the most attention, when in reality, it's going to take, a very well-built holistic program to make someone faster. While I think it's overly simplistic to ask questions like what drills make you faster, there certainly is a place for the use of drills in your program, and with proper implementation, some drills can in fact help you toward your goal of running faster. For example, drills could be used for any of the following goals: developing general coordination, mobility, balance, and movement competence, developing strength endurance, posture control, head control, developing tissue resilience, force output, targeting a certain range of motion, isolating a movement to teach the athlete subtleties of technique, Plan B work for when the athlete is recovering from injury, introductory work that precedes more intense methods of training, or you could just post fancy stuff on Instagram to get those quick views. Suffice to say, sprint drills have their place in any program, and if the program is designed to make athletes faster, then there is some value in selecting certain exercises and using them if they fit for the goal at hand. Some examples of running drills that most of us have heard about are A skips, B skips, high knee runs, single leg cycles, A switches, B switches, things like that. Essentially, drills are specific movements that either emulate something we see in sprinting or they target some specific type of movement that we want to work on. So what is the best running drill? In order for a sprint drill or running drill to be worth using in your program, it needs to achieve some outcome that would otherwise not be easily accomplished using other means. It should be similar to the primary sport activity, whether that be in the range of motion, the muscle action, the rhythm, the postural demands, something. While I enjoy A runs, A skips, B skips, high knee runs, all that stuff, none of these are the best, at least in my opinion. In my opinion, the running drills that have the most bang for their buck, that have the widest range of uses, and that are the most relevant to sprinting are dribbles or dribble runs. So what are dribbles? Dribbles are a sprint drill or a running drill in which the athlete moves their legs in either a circular or elliptical motion, mimicking sprinting, but while going through a smaller range of motion overall. These can be done, like I said, in a circular fashion where you're just going in a circle, or in an elliptical fashion where it's more of an elongated circle like an ellipse. Sprinting is more of an elliptical type of motion rather than purely cyclical, but we can use both cyclical and elliptical motions when we do dribbles. Dribbles can help with a wide range of athletic performance needs, such as learning how to cycle the legs properly, practicing how to properly manage posture and head alignment when you sprint, teaching athletes how to strike the ground effectively at different speeds, improving hamstring resilience at ground contact, improving ankle range of motion through rolling foot contacts, and can offer a speed stimulus when athletes are injured or for some reason cannot sprint. The thing that's great about dribbles is that there are many ways in which these drills can be implemented and progressed. Dribbles can be done at a walking, jogging, or running pace. They can be done with slow or fast frequencies and rhythms. They can be performed at various heights, including ankle, calf, or knee, so you can get different levels of range of motion throughout the leg, the hip, the knee joint, all that stuff. We can manipulate that and work around injuries or other constraints with the dribbles. Dribbles can be performed from a static start or a jogging start, and they can be performed over short or long distances. Being so versatile, dribbles offer athletes a great opportunity to benefit from achieving mastery of the movement. Because of the similarity of the movements, dribbles are the only running drill that I can think of that have the potential to have some amount of transfer to sprinting performance, seeing as most other drills are far too different from the motions, rhythms, or just overall similarity when compared to sprinting. So this brings up the question, how do you perform dribbles? As with anything, how something is done can really make or break whether or not it's worthwhile to do in the first place. With dribbles, there are certain key concepts to grasp that will allow athletes to be effective and use these as an effective running drill rehabilitation exercise, and be something that can generally help enhance one's sprinting related abilities or just their general athleticism. To perform a dribble, in this case an ankle dribble, we do the following. Start in an upright standing position with your eyes looking forward toward the horizon, not looking at the ground. While moving forward at a walking pace, pick up one foot and lift it over the opposite ankle. Allow the foot to move in a circular path around the ankle rather than just up and down. Bring the foot down and back toward the ground, directly under the chest, leading with the heel first. Roll through the heel and onto the toes, picking up the leg and initiating the next repetition. The athlete should not attempt to move very far each step, but rather emphasize the heel first, rolling foot contact, maintain an upright posture, and aim to be smooth in the circular or elliptical motion of the foot. As time goes on, the athlete can progress to going over the calf and knee, moving at a faster pace, going from a circular to a more elliptical motion and allowing the knee to open up a little bit more and get a little bit more stretch on the hamstrings and upper calf, and blending the dribble into a sprint within the same repetition. So in that case, you would be dribbling and then open up the range of motion and turn it into a sprint at the end of the drill. Now there are some key concepts for dribbles that you need to grasp and let marinate in your head as you're going around doing these things. So here are some key concepts that can be emphasized in order for dribbles to be an effective running drill. First of all, we need a heel first, down and back, rolling foot contact. It's hard to overstate the importance of the heel first, down and back, rolling foot contact. Whether performing a dribble or any other running drill, this method of contacting the ground achieves various ends, and while it may be counterintuitive at first to land on your heel, it is in fact a very effective way to get the most out of your jump training, your plyometrics, your drills, pretty much anything that's done slower than a sprinting speed as far as your over ground horizontal velocity. Anything that's not as fast as sprinting, there's going to be some amount of heel contact, and in a drill, particularly a dribble, we're going to see a lot of heel contact, and you need to drill that into your head, no pun intended, in order for this to really work. So for one, the overground velocity of drills is slow, and the human body is most efficient at slow speeds if it rolls from heel to toe while on the ground. Whether walking or jogging, heel first in a down and back direction is the best way to contact the ground. Most athletes make the mistake of being on their toes all the time, creating local stiffness in the ankle and inhibiting access to the full ankle range of motion. When we roll through the foot, the hydraulic mechanisms of the foot are allowed to work properly. Bones are able to glide against each other, the muscles and connective tissue get worked in a more well-rounded manner, and the force that the body is being exposed to can be dispersed over the whole surface area of the foot. As time goes on, the athlete is exposed to jumps, plyometrics, faster sprints, and other intense activities. They will benefit greatly from having a foot and ankle complex which can move well, be pliable, and is holistically built. Additionally, leading with the heel moving backward is a fantastic way to practice being active with your foot strike, which is something that sprinters need to do if they really want to master and improve their sprinting ability. Many sprinters wait for the ground when in fact they need to proactively attack the ground like a hammer, swinging into a nail. We can practice this by performing dribbles or most other sprint drills as long as we are active with the direction of the foot strike being down and back, actively striking the ground, moving the leg down and back, and rolling through the heel. The second key point we need to cover is you need to have your eyes at the horizon. Keeping your eyes on the horizon is very important for maintaining posture and executing movement with good quality ground contacts. It is my belief that the brain can sort out how high you are off the ground because of our binocular vision. And this can be calculated a lot quicker by our reptilian hindbrain rather than if we look at the ground and try to calculate movement more analytically. Since we want to get the foot under us at ground contact, our timing of the leg swing relative to our projection through the air needs to be smooth. I've found no better way than to simply look at the horizon and let your brain do the coordinating. And I think it is wise to always practice conscious unconsciousness when we train or compete. The more we let our hindbrains execute the movement without our analytical human thought processes getting in the way, the faster and more effectively we'll move. Another key concept, we need to step over the opposite ankle, calf, or knee. Before we can hit the ground, we need to get the leg up and over some point on the opposite leg. Just like in sprinting, the leg moves up and forward before it moves down and back. When first learning the dribble, athletes can stick to ankle or calf dribbles as these exhibit smaller ranges of motion and these are easier to perform and thus easier to learn. Athletes who struggle with getting the leg to compress during the swing phase, getting that knee to bend, get the leg up close to your butt, might benefit from working on calf and knee dribbles, as these require the athlete to compress the leg like a spring, just as we see during the leg cycle in sprinting. Alternatively, athletes who have done too many wicket sprints and run down the track like they're in the marching band would likely benefit from focusing on ankle dribbles, since these require the athlete to avoid excessive hip flexion and posterior pelvic tilt and instead go through the smallest range of motion possible to achieve the leg cycle. The last key concept is we need to see a long leg at ground contact. Less experienced sprinters tend to exhibit a lot of knee and hip flexion during the stance phase of sprinting, which for some might lead to excessive ground contact times, groin injuries, or other undesirable outcomes. If you see someone who's really squatted when they're in mid-stance, this is kind of what we're talking about. If the eyes are on the horizon, the heel moves down and back to contact the ground first, and the athlete stays relatively relaxed, it will be pretty easy to get into a long leg position during mid-stance. If we can work on ending up in this position and posture during a dribble, it may be easier to find this position at faster velocities when we go and sprint. By performing dribbles in a way which allows for us to be tall during stance, we will teach the body to stay tall, exhibit systemic stiffness throughout the whole body, and minimize excessive sinus curve movement of the center of mass, and instead move through the air in a more horizontal direction. When it comes to rehabilitation, there are physical benefits that we can derive from using dribbles in our program as a running drill. If you've injured something like an adductor, hamstring, or hip flexor, the reduced range of motion of something like a walking ankle dribble can be a great way to work back toward full capacity in a progressive or progression-oriented manner. Once the athlete can perform a walking ankle dribble with no pain or inhibition, they can progress to a calf or knee height. Similarly, they can progress to doing it at a faster walking pace, at a jogging pace, a running pace, and eventually perform dribbles with stride frequencies which approach that of maximal velocity sprinting. This allows the athlete to maintain their rate coding and switching capabilities while avoiding ranges of motion that might cause pain or, at worst, re-injure the athlete. There's also psychological benefits to including dribbles as a running drill, particularly when using them for rehabilitation. On the psychological side, it is a lot healthier for an athlete to be out practicing with their team or at the track rather than stuck inside doing leg extensions in the training room, as the training room subconsciously signals to the athlete that they are broken, hurt, and they're not a part of the team. Instead, dribbles give the athlete the opportunity to work on a movement that is similar to their primary sport movement, sprinting, to be around their teammates or in the environment they prefer, and in my personal opinion, offers a much better rehab stimulus than what you might typically see in a traditional rehab setting. Certainly there is a place for the simple movements we perform on day one of the recovery period, but at a certain point, the athlete needs to be exposed to more complex movements, higher velocities, and greater elastic demands. If not, the injury will never be exposed to the demands of sport, and re-injury will occur when they leave the training room and hop back on the track. Optimal rehab includes progressions including range of motion, force production, velocity, and elasticity, and dribbles are a great way to work on these progressions whether we are injured or not. Because we're able to manipulate the frequency, the overall range of motion, and you can do them at any kind of pace, they really offer a wide range of options for athletes no matter what stage in the rehab process they're in. So, how do we go about practically applying dribbles to our training program? As discussed, there are a variety of ways that you can use dribbles, ranging from being a teaching tool to a rehabilitation tool, a technical task, or a metabolic challenge. It is up to you to decide how best to implement dribbles, and here are some of the ideas that you can think about when going about using dribbles as a running drill in your sprint training program. So first of all, dribbles can be used as a running drill in your warm-up. As a part of a good quality warm-up, dribbles can be used to bridge the gap between non-sprinting exercises and sprinting. After performing jogging, mobility, and some other basic drills, athletes can perform ankle, calf, or knee dribbles at increasing speeds to prepare the body for the sprinting session of that day. While doing dribbles, athletes and coaches can double check that postures, rhythms, foot strike, and head position are all in a good place before moving on to intense sprinting. Once you get used to doing dribbles, you can do a lot of self-checking within yourself in your warm-up because of the slower speeds and slower frequencies we'll typically see, particularly in a warm-up. You can use the dribble to be double checking, is my head looking forward, are my eyes on the horizon, am I upright, am I going down and back, leading with the heel. You can double check all these things as you're warming up, and it can set you up for a good sprint session, because once those things are in check, you can then go into mindless, non-analytical mode and just let your body operate. Most of the time, 20 to 40 meters is a good distance for athletes to perform dribbles in their warm-up. Ankle dribbles exhibit less projection than calf or knee dribbles, so you might do something like 2 by 20 meters of ankle dribbles, 2 by 30 meters of calf dribbles, and 2 by 40 meters of knee dribbles. Of course, you can do it however you want, and it would be wise to sometimes do the same distance with all variations, whereas other days you might mix it up, like in this example here. Another way that you can use the dribble running drill is as a plan B workout. Say one day you woke up and something hurts, or you've got some nagging injury that is limiting your ability to sprint on one day. Before you get depressed and have an existential crisis, consider how you could use dribbles as a replacement for your sprint work, allowing you to mimic the sprinting motion while avoiding pain and the risk that comes with dealing with some kind of soft tissue injury. You might feel like if you go all out today in sprinting that you're going to blow a hamstring or a groin, whereas if you use dribbles, you might be able to actually improve your range of motion or eliminate some of the pain that you're feeling without stressing it to the point that you risk re-injury. If the goal for that day was to mimic acceleration work, cones can be set up at 10, 20, and 30 meters, with the athlete moving from an ankle dribble to a calf or knee dribble over the course of the run. This allows the athlete to practice some sort of progression in their movement similar to how we progress throughout acceleration, while avoiding the massive levels of tension that we would see in a typical sprint workout. If the goal was to replace a speed training day, the athlete could set up a 20 or 30 meter zone, jog into it, and then dribble as quickly as possible through the cone zone. This mimics a speed development day where the athlete was going to do flying sprints and allows the body to be exposed to high stride frequencies without the risks of sprinting. If the goal was to get some metabolic stimulus or technical endurance that comes from a speed endurance workout, we can lengthen out the distance over which dribbles are performed. If done over a long enough distance and at a high enough stride frequency, extended dribbles can be a very potent metabolic stimulus, meaning that it's really hard, and the number of leg cycles over 40 to 50 meters worth of dribbling is far higher than what we might see when sprinting and, counting those strides throughout the sprint. Last but not least, how can you practically apply dribbles as a rehabilitation workout like we started talking about earlier? As discussed previously, dribbles are a great sprint drill for rehabilitation purposes. While I'm no therapist, I will say that the same logical approach to progressing exercises for performance can be applied to rehabilitation as well. Therapists are a luxury that most of us cannot afford, so we have to take it upon ourselves to fix our own issues, particularly in the case of minor soft tissue injuries. Obviously, any long-lasting issue that doesn't go away should be dealt with at least, in part, the help of a professional who has studied rehabilitation very thoroughly. But since it is unrealistic for most of us to have access to a therapist at any given moment, we're going to talk about how we, as self-coached athletes, can go about working on our own rehab using dribbles as a running drill. When rehabbing an injury, we want to progress from smaller ranges of motion to larger ranges of motion, as well as from slower to faster velocities. The simple way to progress your rehab is to go through whatever range of motion and at whatever velocity you can, so long as it does not elicit any sharp pain or any tearing or shredding types of sensations. Err on the side of going slower than what you feel you're capable of and going through a smaller range of motion than what you feel you're capable of, while also focusing on increasing both of these variables over time, incrementally, little by little. If you've done 2 weeks of ankle dribbles and have increased the movement frequency without any pain, it might be time to progress to slow calf dribbles. We're not increasing the velocity necessarily very much, but we are increasing the range of motion. So once you get used to doing dribbles at a certain range of motion and you can move a little bit quicker, then you can think about moving on to a slightly larger range of motion, but at a slow frequency. Then, as velocity at that range of motion, such as a calf dribble, can increase, you can then try out a larger range of motion, such as the knee dribble. The top 10% of movement velocity is often one of the hardest things to recuperate after an injury, so consider this when planning your progressions. Just because it took 9 weeks to get to 90% does not mean that you will be at 100% in one more week. Realistically, you can be at 85 to 90% within a month or two, but it will take another month or two before you feel confident enough to go as fast as possible when you sprint. Sometimes it could even take longer. But with the dribbles, you're able to incrementally increase the range of motion, the frequency, overground movement velocity, how much you project, and it really allows you to progress in a way that is logical and healthy for what your needs are. When in doubt, avoid progressing velocity too quickly and instead add in a variety of movements so you do not get bored due to a lack of velocity progression. Also consider that you can perform dribbles forward, backward, and you may be able to go backward faster than forward depending on the injury that you have. Either way, think outside the box, stay safe, and utilize well thought out progressions so you can get back to sprinting as soon as is reasonably possible. Even if one leg is completely destroyed for some reason, I hope it's not, but if it is, you could even dribble on the other leg. So you have crutches, well, you could do a little dribble, then crutch yourself, get onto that good leg again, do another dribble. You could dribble in place. You could stand next to a treadmill, holding yourself up with crutches or something, and then dribble with one leg on the treadmill. There's really no limit to how you can apply these, even if you're very limited in mobility, have a very serious injury. As long as you have one healthy limb, you can do these if you get creative and you think about how you can do these exercises given your specific situation. So to wrap things up, I think dribbles are the best running drill that you can incorporate into your training program, whether that's basic running, sprint training, football player, whatever it is. Athletes of all skill levels and ages can work on dribbles, and they're useful for everything from warm-ups to practicing a certain aspect of the sprinting motion or for rehabilitation. Remember that you can use these as a plan B workout. You can use them as the main workout. It's up to you. But just because you can't sprint one day doesn't mean that you can't do anything. And instead of, getting depressed and sad that, I can't sprint today, remember, you could use these as a plan B workout. Once they feel great, then you can experiment with sprinting, see if the pain you deal with goes away, and then you're better off as a result. Or say you have a problem like me personally, where I tend to run with my head down. Dribbles are a great time to work on getting your head up, looking at the horizon. Find the motion or find the specific thing that maybe you're struggling with from a technical standpoint and work on that thing that you need to develop or improve. Work on that while you do dribbles. Then when you go to sprint, you may not even have to think about it because you already ingrained those patterns when dribbling, and it's going to be easier to see that when you sprint without having to think about it. As always, make sure you're performing dribbles with good technique. Film yourself so that way you can see what's going on and you can connect the dots between what you feel, what you think you're doing, and what you're actually doing. And by going through that process of doing it, feeling it, double checking on the video, and then trying to fix whatever it is that is not quite what you thought it was, that process repeated over and over and over again is how you get better, even if you don't have a coach. So whether you have a coach or not, dribbles are a great way for you to work on your technique, work on things that are maybe taking away from your ability to sprint. You can use them as a plan B workout. You can use them in rehab. The possibilities are endless. Be creative. Think about ways that they can work into your program. Don't go overboard with it, but keep it in your back pocket as a tool that you can use when nothing else seems like it'll work. Remember, dribbles are always there. So guys, thanks for watching this video. I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe so you can stay tuned to my future videos. Until next time, this is Cody Bidlow with SprintingWorkouts.com, signing off.